right, so we are back, and my next guest has been on with me before. I have David Fisher. He's the CEO of Landmark Gold. Welcome. Well, it's Landmark Capital Gold, right?
Landmark Capital and Gold Group.
Gold Group.
You just call us Landmark Capital, it's fine.
You know what? Welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
You know, the first time that you were on, you're so informative. Let's talk a little bit about what you do and what you want to talk about today.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you so much again for having me back on your program, Carol. We are a precious metal company. I've been doing this for 21 years, and we help people, first of all, be educated, informed, to make a decision that's based upon their needs and their wants. Most people don't have a thing called a blueprint. In other words, you wouldn't build a house without a blueprint. It'd be crazy. Most people make financial decisions called investing without any plan. And so out of this, our company birthed a thing called the Financial Blueprint. And so we help people put together a tailor-made package based upon their age, their investment needs, their concerns. Do they think we're going to have inflation, currency devaluation? Do they think the stock market's going to crash or correct? You know, I hear all these terms in my industry and outside my industry. So based upon all those things and their tolerance, their risk tolerance, we put together a financial blueprint that's tailor-made for them. It's called an entry strategy.
Now, how long have you been doing this?
Like I said, I've been doing this for 21 years. You've probably heard me on KFYI. I've been on KFNX before, obviously KFNN 1510. I've been on KNST. I've been on the Denver station KOA. I've wrote a lot of newsletters, done a lot of speeches, a lot of seminars.
And you've been on here before, too.
Yeah, with you.
Yes, it was wonderful, and I loved listening to you because you're very, very informational. You're knowledgeable about what you're talking about, and the last time, and I'm hoping we're going to talk a little bit about it today, was incredible, and a lot of people's eyes were like big because they couldn't believe what you were talking about. But I just want to also kind of just distinguish yourself from the other people out there.
There's a lot of people sell precious metals. In fact, when I started in 1993, the group of precious metal dealers were very small. Since then, it's grown quite a bit, especially since 2008. Now you see all those signs on the road, you know, we buy gold, we sell gold, you know, and anybody can sell gold. But is it the right product? Are they picking the right product for you? Do they know you? Do they develop this strategy I'm talking about? So we believe in building relationships, helping people understand what's the role of gold. You know, there's a lot of misunderstanding about a lot of different investments, and I think there's a lot in my industry of, you know, I think people think they're going to take their gold or their silver down to the grocery store, and that's a big misunderstanding. And you know, I could devote a whole program about that. Maybe one of our programs in the fall that we should talk about specifically. How do I go spend my gold? With the question or the answer is you're not. It's just going to hedge against the dollar, and I don't want to go into depth on that, but there's a lot of difference that separates us from the others. We're, you know, credited with the BBB. I have a lot of affiliates in my industry. PCGS, I'm a member of PCGS, member of NGC, I'm a member of American Numismatic Association. So we have credentials that says we've been around, we know what we're talking about.
Now, okay, I want to talk about some of these gold buying stuff. Okay, and I've heard that in China there has been a lot of gold. Okay, what are the facts about all of that?
This revolves around the United States dollar. Unfortunately, the dollar has some challenges, and this is why today you probably saw in the news President Obama is meeting with the Prime Minister of Japan. There's a reason why that is happening, not just to build ties and have them over the White House. China just set up a bank, a global bank called the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, or AIIB. This has been in the makings for quite some time. Prior to this just being set up in March of this year, China in 2005, I'll give you a little quick timeline, okay? In 2005, China for the first time backs away from buying U.S. treasuries on the open market on Wall Street. China, as you know, buys a lot of our U.S. debt. A treasury bill, first of all, is a debt instrument. When the government overspends, they got to create a note called a treasury bill. And so it's a subsidy to overspending through our government. the biggest buyer is China. So for them to stop buying U.S. Treasuries in 2005, before all the problems we had in 2008, is a huge thing. They had about $8.2 trillion at that time, and they were buying U.S. Treasuries. Well, they stopped. At that point, they made an announcement in 2005, we're going to buy gold instead. They said we want to have 1,000 tons of gold. This is the first time China ever has announced they're going to buy gold publicly.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've never heard them talk about it.
It came out through the World Gold Council in 2005, and they said we want to have 1,000 tons of gold in 5 years. 2010, they reached that goal. They have 1,035 tons. In 2011, February 14th of that year, February 13th, excuse me, they said we want 10,000 tons now in the next decade. So by 2021, the world said, how is that possible? Well, they showed us. And in 2012, they bought every single ounce that the COMEX market was selling, which is the infrastructure in the United States, and they bought every single ounce of gold that was available on foreign markets the third quarter of that year in 2012.
I wonder why.
Well, they're backing away from buying U.S. dollars. They've been saying to us, you got to get the United States your financial house in order. Now, during this time, in 2005, the United States debt was somewhere around $6 trillion, $7 trillion. President Obama gets in office, it's at $8 trillion, and now we're at $18 trillion. It's grown $10 trillion. And I'm not trying to throw stones at President Obama, but under his presidency, and some of it he inherited from previous presidents, and some of it just was inherited from just over a decade of not being engaged in our financial welfare being of the United States. So the world is seeing this problem. But most Americans are saying, oh, everything's fine, I'm still getting a paycheck. But you know, they said the same thing with the meltdown prior to 2008. People were very unaware, and I was talking about it left and right for 3 years, saying there is a major calamity getting ready to happen, and Wake Up America. I was going on the radio, I was writing newsletters, I was doing seminars, and I'm saying the same thing today, Carol. Something is getting ready to happen. So if people feel deep down in their gut that the banking industry really didn't get fixed in 2009, I can give you the facts why it didn't.
I'm going to tell you what, I want to give out your information. The phone number to call him is area code, 602-682-2171, and check out his website. It is landmarkgold.com. And we're going to be opening up the lines to the audience for something that's really interesting, which is the coming bail-in. And I'm going to let people, right now I want to let you finish on this.
Okay.
Because they're separate.
Yes,
okay?
exactly. But they do kind of go together
I
a
know.
little bit.
Okay.
It's about the debt of our country. This is what the whole problem is, and the U.S. dollar being still the world reserve currency. The dollar is in trouble, and that's why the investment bank in China was created. 50 countries of the world said, we want to be a part. 2 countries said no, Japan and the United States.
Wow. Well, let me ask you another question before we go to a break, because I want to get you to be able to get it all out.
Yep.
There's so much that we can talk about, and it goes by fast. So what about the Asian infrastructure?
So the whole purpose of this is if China wants to become, in 2010 when they said we want 10,000 tons, the purpose, the guy's name is Xi Jinping. He's the equivalency of our Federal Reserve chairman. Xi Jinping said the purpose of this is to internationalize our currency called the yuan. So they were buying all this gold, 10,000 tons, to back their currency. Because right now there's really no currency of the world that is backed by gold. The United States used to be. So did Switzerland. But right now there is no country that is fully backed by gold except for the Chinese yuan.
Well, I wonder why.
Okay. So recently the World Gold Council, within the last couple months, just came out with the projections. We're going to know this summer if the projections are accurate. They think that China bought 3,315 tons of gold. So they're a third of the way there of their projections of their goal of getting 10,000 tons. So they can back their currency by gold. So how do you create an international currency? Simple. First of all, you got to keep out of debt. They've done that. You got to grow your economy. They've done that. You got to buy a lot of gold to back your currency. They've done that. and you got to create an international bank. They've done that. And the last thing, you got to attract the rest of the world to want to be a part of this, and they certainly did that. When Britain signed on to, Britain, our biggest ally, when they signed on with the Chinese Infrastructure Investment Bank, a whole slew of countries went. Switzerland signed on. Israel, we never want to turn our back on Israel. I don't know what you believe about that, but Israel parted ways with us and went with China.
You know what, guys? It's amazing information. I love the way that you want to educate the public. That's what you're all about. We're going to go to a break. When we come back, we want to finish with that, but then we also want to talk about the coming bail-in for people to get some information on that. 602-682-2171, and it's landmarkgold.com. We'll be back in just a minute. We're talking with David Fisher, and he is the CEO of Landmark Capital. And you know, here we've been talking. He's 21 years of experience, and it's riveting listening to you. And yet, at the same time, you know, you're opening your eyes like, wow, really? Oh my gosh! So, at the break when we were talking, you happened to mention the petrodollar, and I'm like, well, what is that? And you go, well, Carol, let me tell you.
Yeah, most people have never heard of that. Let's go back in history, and you got to look at the timeline. In 1971, President Nixon was in office, and from 1971 and previous, the United States dollar was 100% backed by gold. And so foreign countries would say, hey, we'll send us they'll send us their currency, and we would give them gold in exchange. It was a great deal until Nixon closed the gold window. And at that point, we took our currency off gold. So the world said, I don't need the U.S. dollar anymore, because there was this incentive to work with the United States in that capacity. So 2 years later, when OPEC was created, we struck an agreement with them, the United States, said, let's get in part of the oil industry, because oil is used in about everything. So let's make it that all oil contracts are issued in U.S. dollars. So that happened in 1973. So this created a need for the world to use U.S. dollars. So that's what makes and grows a Federal Reserve note, expands the monetary system, is the world, we have to create a need for it. So this is why the thing back to China is so disturbing, because China, the biggest a country who's been buying U.S. dollars in the form of treasury bills, has been backing away. Now they went from $8.2 trillion in 2005. Now they only hold 3.8. So they've sold more than half of their reserves. They've not bought any new ones, and they've been buying gold. Back to the petrodollar. So the petrodollar, when oil goes up, the dollar goes up, or the dollar goes up, oil goes up. They've been moving hand in hand for the most part in sync, because oil was sold in U.S. dollar contracts until last summer. You notice that oil dropped this last summer. A whole bunch.
A lot.
And everybody's going like, why is that? Because here's what happened. 7 countries around China, Russia, and a lot of the oil-backed countries broke the back of the petrodollar. They started trading oil in contracts no longer in the U.S. dollar, like the yuan, the Russian ruble, and that's why you've been seeing all this fighting with Russia and us. It's all about money. That's all this is about. Wars are about money. Governments fighting about it. It's all about money. That's why I'm saying the Prime Minister of Japan was invited by the White House, because if Japan joined the Asian Infrastructure Bank, we would be the only country. All our allies have already joined except for Japan. So when the oil contract, the petrodollar, broke in the summer, that's why you saw oil drop and the dollar rise. The dollar rose 24% in 1 year. Okay? Not quite a year, but almost a year. It's the biggest rise in a currency. It was a manipulation by the Federal Reserve. So again, how do you create people to hold your currency? Either cause it to rise or cause it to be used. We lost the cause to use it, called the petrodollar, so they said, let's manipulate it upward, cause it to grow so everybody wants to hold it. Now the dollar is starting to come down. That's why gold's starting to go up. So what's happening is there's a shifting in the world, and most people are not aware of it. The United States has lost a lot of groundwork, a lot of digging in where we can say, hey, accept our dollars to be used worldwide. China is rising to the occasion. I've been writing about this for 4 years. Now they just created the investment bank. That's the last nail in the coffin, as long as we have countries involved, and clearly we do. So what's happening, we are seeing the transition before our very eyes, Carol. We're not going to go to zero or anything like that. There's not going to be riots in the street or anything like that. We're not going to, paper money is not going to become worthless, but it's going to become worth less in value, because the dollar is going to lose its world reserve status unless we get our financial house in order and a need to hold U.S. dollars once again.
Well, I mean, I'm going to say, how do we do that? And I know we want to talk about this other subject, but how do we do it?
Well, we get our currency backed by gold, and you stop this insanity against central bankers. Central banks are the one that's causing this problem. Central banks caused the problem in 2008. It was all because of central banks leveraging money. Anytime you leverage your money, you're risking money, and you're playing the odds that someday it's going to come back to bite you. And this is why the world does not like what the United States is doing financially. So here's what unless we do that fix, and I don't think we're going to, the fix is, who's the next participant to hold U.S. dollars? And that's where this bail-in comes into effect.
That's what I want to talk about right now. Tell them what this is, because it's amazing, and we're going to let everybody call in for the information on it, but go ahead and tell them what it is.
At the end of the day, they call it, somebody's got to be left holding the bag. Somebody is called the bigger fool theory. At the end of the day, somebody's going to get left holding the bag that's not worth as much as it used to be. And this is why countries are saying, I don't want to hold that bag. I don't want to hold that bag. It's called the U.S. dollar. This has been set up, as far as what we're going to talk about here, about 6 years ago. Actually, it started in 2006, but it's been aggressively happening since 2009, 10, 11. Since we had a big downturn in the economy, they created a thing, the government created a thing called the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. And that was created because of a law that was passed called the Dodd-Frank Act. You probably remember that. So those sound all great and fine, and the government's here to save the day. They got, here I am to save the day. The government is on its way. Well, they should be on its way out the door to be doing what they should be doing and not getting involved in the monetary system. So the problem is that the government, while it's going into debt, they're saying, let's create an entity called the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which was issued by President Obama, and he appointed Richard Cordray, a Democratic lawyer, into office. It was supposed to be a vote, and it was rejected, and he just issued it as such. Within 2 weeks, Richard Cordray was before Congress saying to Congress, we believe that Americans can't handle their money, quote unquote. Quote, we are looking at the legal issues of us being able to, quote, help Americans handle their retirements, end quote. So how they were looking at this is that they're wanting to set up a government retirement annuity. What that government retirement annuity is an annuity, kind of like Social Security. You pay into a fund and they pay you back over time, but this is the government retirement annuity that would buy treasury bills. So this came out within 1 month after China had the biggest sell-off in the U.S. dollar in world history. So they came up with this plan. Let's look at seizing retirement accounts. And under the Dodd-Frank bill, that allowed them to do that. That's the retirement side. It also allowed the banking side to change. Remember, banks didn't have enough money. We had to bail them out, But now they're saying they have plenty of money. Remember?
I totally remember.
Okay. So where did they get all this money?
We.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
The Dodd-Frank bill, prior to this going into effect, the money that you put in your bank account was all your money. It wasn't the bank's money. But after this bill was passed by Congress to protect us, then it became law. Now the money that you put in your bank is no longer yours. It's legally the bank's, and that's where they got all this money to shore up banks in case we have a financial calamity. They're going to use your money. Well, it's not yours no more. You have to understand that. It's theirs. They're going to use your money that's theirs, in case there is a financial calamity, it is no longer yours. So try accessing your money. This is the same thing that happened in Cyprus and 12 other countries in the last 5 years.
You wrote this, it's the white paper. You
Yep.
wrote this, it's wonderful, it's very extensive, and he wants everybody to have it. It's called The Coming Bail-In, How to Protect Your Retirement and Bank Accounts from Government Seizure. So our number here is 602-277-5369, and toll free it's 1-866-536-1100. We have less than a minute and a half.
We figured out a way, I'll say this, where you can take physical possession of metals in your retirement and hold them in your hand without a tax liability. You should call our office and learn how this is done. Many companies have not figured this out. I've been doing this for 6 years.
His phone number is area code 602-682-2171. His website, check it out. You've got to check it out. It is landmarkgold.com, and we're going to let you call throughout the rest of the show for this. It's called The Coming Bail-In. He wrote it. It's his white paper, and he wants everybody to have it because he wants to educate you on this. And it's how to protect your retirement and bank accounts from government seizure. And our number here is 602-277-5369, and toll free it's 1-866-536-1100. Final words.
Thank you so much for having me on your show. Your eyes were as big as saucers when we talked about this first time, and they're still the same size right now.
I know it is, and everybody that's in the station, I can see the people behind the scenes and everything. They're all listening very intently too. It's very, very informational and sort of scary, but you can help. His phone number is area code 602-682-2171. It's landmarkgold.com, or call us here and get The Coming Bail-In, 602-277-5369.